Hey rockers, welcome back, man. It's been a minute, right? The holidays have come and gone, and just been dealing with some health stuff. You can hear it in my voice, but I'm on the mend. Before I start the video, thanks for being here, man, and shout out to White Taco and the Pile Drivers, a band out of Central Illinois you'll be hearing more of, and they were cool enough to send me their t-shirt and some stickers. So shout out to Aaron in Central Illinois for the great t-shirt. I appreciate that very much, my friend, and I promised him I'd wear it in one of my videos, so here I am. Tonight we're going to talk about LITA FORD, one of my favorites, man, from way back, of course, starting in the days of the Runaways. Of course, the very first Runaways album being a very influential album to me as a young teenager, and just loving that album so much. The first Runaways album was released in 1976 when LITA FORD was 17 years old and the oldest member of the Runaways. So she spent her 70s in the Runaways. She had a pretty cool career in the 80s with one of her biggest, and actually remaining to be her biggest hit of all, the 1989 duet with Ozzy Osbourne, of course. You know what song I'm talking about. Close My Eyes Forever. Yeah, man, it's a pretty popular song. Another song by LITA that I really dig is Kiss Me Deadly, Out for Blood. She did so many great records back in the day, you know, up into about 1995, which I don't want to skip ahead too much, but she did have a successful solo career. I gotta say, man, if you ever heard the 1983 Out for Blood album, it's her debut album, one of my very favorite of all time by LITA FORD. Not to disqualify her other stuff as being great, but that's my favorite for sure, and it's really a rockin' record, man. In 2016, and a lot of this information is pretty imperative to get to what I'm going to get to about my awkward interview situation with LITA and Jim Gillette. But yeah, 2016, she releases her autobiography, Living Like a Runaway, detailing her tumultuous and basically often violent affair with like Tony Iommi, which was a lot of physical abuse going on. That stuff is shocking. If you haven't read LITA's book, you have to read it. Her romances with a lot of famous rockers, including Nikki Sixx, her short marriage to Wasp member Chris Holmes, of course, and then, and now we're kind of leading up to where I'm going to go with this story, LITA meets the guitar player from the band Nitro. Or should I say vocalist? Okay, he was the vocalist for the band Nitro. I correct myself. And that guy's name was Jim Gillette. Maybe he played guitar with the band. Don't know anything about Nitro, to be honest. I just know that he was from the band Nitro. In 1994, she meets this guy. They get married within 2 weeks. So LITA is officially married to Jim Gillette. Basically, he skirts her off to a desert island with not much going on there. And I think it might have even been deserted. I don't know. But I know that he got her out of the fame and the spotlight for a long time. She did release an album in 1995 right after that. But then after that, zero until about almost 15 years later, man. Yeah, and that takes me to skip ahead in my story. In 1984, or right around then, LITA was on tour. She was in Peoria, Illinois. She came to my hometown where I was living, and I went to the club where she was playing at, which might have been called the Second Chance. I can't remember. If you were there, please leave a comment below. Also, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and comment. I love new subscribers. So I walked to the Second Chance. I'm 18 years old. This is 1984, I believe, give or take a year. And I walk about a couple miles from my house to this club, and it's deserted. There's no one outside because everyone's in the club to see LITA FORD. You can hear the band on stage vamping. I'm like, oh man, LITA's already in there. I was gonna try to meet her before she went on stage. Well, guess what happened? I'm standing about 100 feet from her bus, and all of a sudden I see some figure walk off the bus, kind of walking towards the club. And it was LITA. So I'm like, hey, LITA, come over, man. And she walks over, hey, dude, what's going on? And I said, she goes, why aren't you in the club? And I go, I'm 18, I can't. She's like, oh, man, that's a bummer. I said, well, how about we do a photo real quick? Sign some stuff for me before you go in. She goes, look, man, why don't you wait till after the show's over and we'll hang out? I'll do all that, no problem. And I'm like, oh, I get to hang out with LITA FORD. Well, I ended up, long story short, I had other stuff going on that night, thinking I was just going to go there for a short time. I couldn't hang out, man. Idiot, right? Stupido. So anyway, that was my brief encounter with Lita until the year 2009, when I got a chance to interview her on the radio station I was working for in Peoria, Illinois, which I believe at that time was 99.9 FM, which might have been it was WWCT, but I'm not sure what they were actually calling it. Was the Buzz, perhaps? I can't remember now. I've been on 8 stations, radio stations, since 1999, and yeah, my memory's either spot on or completely gone, and that's why I do stories on the stuff I remember, and stuff I can't, I just have to forget it, you know? But what happened was, after I left, I flash forward to the year 2009, I want to interview Lita Ford because I hear she's got a brand new album out. And everyone is excited and talking about Wicked Wonderland, which was the big comeback album from Lita Ford, with artwork on the front cover by Piggy D, who played bass and guitar respectively with Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie, Wednesday 13. Anyway, it had a really cool cover. I thought it was great. The album surprised me with its sound. It was very nu metal with a little bit of gothic, metal, hard rock, very trippy. But the thing about it was that her husband, Jim Gillette, who was a very controlling, very controlling, trippy dude in her life, and her husband, of course. But this guy produced it. I think he did a lot of the lead vocals with back and forth with Lita. And we find out today that a lot of the guitar on that album is not Lita at all. It's Jim Gillette. What a drag. Well, when it came out, we didn't know that. But we did know that Jim Gillette was a really controlling guy that had taken her out of the spotlight. And you know, man, the thing about the interview that I did with her, it took me a while to get it because I had to go through Jim Gillette. Yep, I had to go through Jim Gillette. I had to start out with emails and all that. Then it was phone calls. And I'm like, when can I finally talk to Lita? What's the deal? I know you're like her handler and her husband, but doesn't she have any freedom? So it turns out that he finally okays the interview. We get the date set up. I'm all ready to rock. We get my recorder, the recording cool edit program and the radio station ready to go. We call Lita, and it turns out she's traveling through the mountains at this particular time, and the reception was going in and out, and I kept going, man, are you kidding? I would hit record and get like a minute in with her, and it would go out. This went on for maybe 8 times, 8 different calls, and my nerves were shot. But finally, they got to a place where I was able to get like a 12 or 15-minute interview with Lita Ford, and guess what? You can hear that interview on my other YouTube channel, The Church of Rock, all one word. Please subscribe there if you would. And it's a cool interview with Lita. She's really upbeat. But guess what? It was so awkward. When I called to set the interview up, I couldn't talk to Lita. I had to keep talking to Jim Gillette. And it was really awkward to even get him off the phone to get her on. It was like he was the star and she wasn't. It was weird. You could feel the control crap and manipulative stuff going on that was in the air. You could feel it, even though we were on the phone. And finally, he gives the phone to Lita, and then the reception goes in and out. All the phone calls are getting dropped. I'm losing my mind, pulling my hair out. It's making my hair turn white. Ha ha ha. Anyway. Finally, we get a good connection, and Lita did a great interview. She was super friendly. She was very honest. You could tell there was some stuff she kind of held back on. You could tell the entire time she was focused on Jim Gillette because he was right there, and she kept talking to him throughout the interview, saying things like, right, Jim? Or is this right, Jim? And just almost like Jim was like very domineering, controlling, and right there. It was really awkward, man. And we kept looking at each other, me and my co-host, Chaplain Chip V. Shout out, Chaplain Chip. We kept looking at each other going, what the hell is going on, man? This is so weird. I mean, again, I'm a huge Lita fan. If you're watching, this is not knocking you, and you know that. It's knocking Jim, though. It's the way it is, man. Knock, knock, knocking on Jim's back door. Or, that didn't sound right. Anyway, Jim Gillette, if you're watching, I could care less. Anyway, I'm glad that Lita was able to finally get away from Jim Gillette. What happened was they got married, and then after, maybe, I don't know how many years, 15 years-ish, after that, right around after that, there was a reality TV show going to be made about their lives. And Jim did this kind of behind the back of Lita. Then they both started talking about it. And then Lita flew to Los Angeles to meet with the producers about it. When she got back home, according to Lita, her husband and kids would not talk to her. Yep, they had 2 sons. When I was talking to her in 2009, one of the sons was 12. And she said he was sitting right there with her playing Guns N' Roses on his guitar, by the way. And I thought, wow, the whole family is just sitting right there while she's doing the interview. And you could tell she was distracted a bit, even though she was friendly. But, you know, she's the kind of person that if you said, hey, I love you, Lita, she'd say, I love you too, dude. But when I said I love you to her at the end of the interview, she said, you too. Because, you know, if she would have said, I love you, oh, Jim Gillette might have freaked out and the control factor might have gone up. So Lita was acting very kid gloves-ish, and it was because of Jim, I'm telling you, man. And all the stuff I've read and heard about since they broke up, it just appalls me. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm offending any of you Nitro fans, but it's not my intention. I'm just here to tell the facts, and only the facts, according to my memory. But the interview's cool. You should hear it, man. Lita was super sweet. But man, I'm telling you, it was one of the most awkward interviews I've ever done, and I've done hundreds and hundreds. And Lita was cool, but Jim Gillette was the worst, man, as far as that control factor. And when I found out he was playing a lot of that guitar, and he did the vocals and wrote and arranged and recorded and mixed, and he did that whole album, not Winter Wonderland, what's it called? I made a note, of course, as always, Wicked Wonderland. You know, the album was okay and stuff, but once I found all this stuff out and revisited that album, it just didn't sound the same to me, and it was actually probably the worst one that Lita had ever done. But I gotta tell you, it's not her fault. This guy was controlling and manipulative to the point to where he was having her own kids physically attack Lita, and it became ugly. She had to estrange herself from the entire family. She lost her kids. It became a very, very horrific and stressful part of her life. And I remember reading interviews with her where she was crying and just really genuinely affected by this guy and what had transpired. So I'm going to leave it at that. But I will tell you this, I've got a couple of facts about Lita Ford. I got to see her a couple of years ago here in over by Grants Pass, Oregon, right down the road from where I live now. And boy, was she killer, man. You can find some of those recordings also on the Church of Rock channel. There's 2 or 3, maybe more cuts of Lita playing recently. In 2013, did you know that Lita Ford reunited with former Runaway singer Cherie Currie to do a Christmas tune? Yep, they did. And they took the proceeds and gave it to Toys for Tots, which is a charity that gives to kids at the holiday time in need. Toys for Tots. And it's something that Cherie and Lita Ford had previously been involved with, which is pretty cool, man. Yeah, doing some philanthropy and whatnot. In 2010, the Runaways movie, of course, major motion picture, chronicling the Runaways' career, came out. That was pretty fun. There's another movie, it's a documentary called Edge Play that I do recommend, from 2004, produced by former Runaways bassist Vicky Blue. It's pretty cool. It's got interviews with all the girls except for Joan Jett, who declined to participate. But it talks about all the various abuse at the hands of Kim Fowley, the manager, and other people in the business, and about all the dark stuff that kind of transpired. And it's a story that you start to watch and you realize right away, or within not too long into it, this has got a whole different vibe and meaning to that I thought it was going to have, being a documentary about the Runaways. You should check it out. It's called Edge Play, and it's definitely worth watching. I had an autographed copy of that on DVD, which was signed by original Runaways bass player Jackie Fox, or the one that's the most known, of course. And, of course, it burned in those stupid 2020 fires. But what you going to do, man? You know, yeah, what you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, bad boys. Never mind. Anyway, man, the interview with Lita Ford was awesome. I hope you guys are digging the story, even though it was just a chill one, right? Nothing exciting. I'm just joking, man. Whether you liked it or not, I'm glad you listened. It was really cool to talk to one of my favorite heroes. When you listen to Lita's guitar work with the Runaways and then go to her solo work, she just progressed so well over the years to where she became a killer, not just hard rock, but like a metal player. And her guitar playing is very awesome. I've always loved Lita Ford. I have the utmost respect for her. The fact that she was derailed for a big chunk of, of her life with Jim Gillette is unfortunate, but they say life is about blessings and lessons, and I'm sure she has plenty of lessons learned in her life. Sending nothing but love to Lita Ford and all her fans. once again, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel if you would. If you like the story, please give it a like. Leave a comment below if you want to. And I'll be back soon with more punk, rock, metal, and curveball tales right here at Bloody F Mess Official. And if you have any requests for any stories that you know I could tell, all you got to do is let me know, my friends. Thank you for being here once again. And adios, amigos. Keep on rocking.